and membership exceeding 350,000 with significant female representation. We welcome you, sir. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Brian Lindsay, Director, Dairy Sustainability Framework and Sustainability Lead, Global Dairy Platform. Please welcome Mr. Brian Lindsay. As DSF Director, he managed a board of 9 global governors and coordinates the DSF Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. Is also the Global Dairy Platform's Global Sector Lead for Sustainability and serves on the steering committee of the Dairy Asia Initiative, focusing on driving sustainable dairy production in 14 Asian countries. So once again, we welcome all of our panel members, and now over to our eminent panelists for a very insightful discussion on climate action in dairy. Over to you, ma'am.
So a very good morning to all of you, and I know most of you have already been done with one session, but I think this is a very interesting session, and I have very distinguished colleagues here as fellow panelists, and with their contribution in the areas that each one of them has been ascribed upon, I will not get into the details, but I really look forward to the discussions on this very sensitive and a very contemporary topic. Besides this, we also have some other speakers who would be giving their point of view. I will keep myself very short over here because we all understand the necessity of an affirmative climate action, and this affirmative climate action plan has to be brought into the fold of dairy as well. Today here, when we have, I think, all the luminaries and important stakeholders of the dairy sector, I think this topic, with a lot of seriousness, will set the agenda to be taken up in the near future. We have seen climate change is for real. At least here in India, we have been seeing the impact. I will again not get into details how the temperatures are rising, how unusual areas are getting rainfall, etc. Flooding has increased, but all of this is really important to take note of. In the dairying system that we are posed with another kind of a challenge, because, and that is not because, but we do have a very large livestock population. The greenhouse effect supposedly attributed to this sector needs to be accounted for properly. That is something that we need to be very careful about, because the international market at some point in time will start putting in restrictions, will start putting in barriers with respect to our climate action as well. So this accounting has to be initially corrected, and the baseline has to be very correct. Once we've done this, we can then account for what is happening on the action side and the impact therein. In India, the dairying sector, as we know, is a small holder segment which kind of takes forward the dairy business. Unlike the West, where the sizes are much larger, here the size is much smaller. It has its benefits, it has its negatives as well. So while in a large farm, it might be easier to put in those practices which can help mitigate the climate points. But on the other side, the positive in the Indian dairy sector is our small landholder size, farm holding size of the livestock animals. Number two, it's a very involved community which does livestock rearing. So if we reach out to them, so reaching out to them is a problem and educating them is a problem. But having said that, it is this community framework which has made the dairy industry so robust till now. I think issues pertaining to positive action like the kind of feed being given, ration balancing, management of our waste, and conversion to wealth, all these things can also happen very quickly because we also know the power of multiple hands that clap and make a loud noise. The similar thing can happen in this sector with our small farmers. NDDB at its own end and Government of India at the policy level has also initiated several such initiatives where we are saying we need to stop open grazing, we need to encourage stall feeding, we need to encourage balanced rationing, and we need to ensure fodder, good quality fodder, which itself will result in reducing carbon gas emissions. The other thing which is very important and on which a lot of work has happened in India is the management of the gobar or the waste of the animals. This is being now recycled, being added into the value chain for various things, production of bio-CNG, biogas. Many of our older plants are now being converted into more efficient plants. We are also taking initiative to have commercial level of bio-CNG plants. We have seen one in Banas, we have seen one in Ramnagar in Varanasi, one in Muzaffarnagar, and there are several more. The private sector is also getting involved in this. So this is really the start, and we have to capitalize on the start. We must protect the IPRs, whoever are doing work on this, and make this journey a good commercial journey, because nothing speaks like an economic return. People see the economic returns and they follow it up. So with this context, and I know I have very knowledgeable panelists over here, I would now like to request Madam Vibha, who is from TERI, Director General TERI, to take this forward.
Thank you so much. Maybe I'll go there. I'll say and thank you very much for having me here. Perhaps I'm the odd one out because all of you have such long experience with dairy. For me, it is first a consumer and thereafter looking into what is happening or what is the contribution of dairy sector to climate change. And I'll say it's a very significant event, International Dairy Federation Regional Dairy Conference that is organized by NDDB. And I extend my heartfelt gratitude for the organizers to bringing us together to discuss and celebrate the vital contribution of the dairy sector to India's economic growth and social development. I don't have to highlight how the sector has grown, and for population which is largely vegetarian, what it is contributing to the nutritional security, which I'll say still is not up to the mark, and we have to go miles and miles before we feel proud of India. We say we are secure, there is food security, but we still have to attain nutritional security, and therefore dairy sector has to grow much more than the present speed. Of course, there is dynamic growth which is happening, and also as consumer preferences. Because still few years back, and I get reminded of that when we were kids, I remember my grandmother getting up early in the morning just for Delhi Milk Scheme milk. They'll put their turn 4 o'clock in the morning, then they'll fetch 4 liters of milk or whatever. And we used to have token system. You can't go beyond it. if you have even guests at home, you have to manage with the same quantity. In Delhi, during summer months, there used to be ban on milk products. And my birthday is in June, so my father will, and he was in railways, he'll go to one of the Rajasthan cities basically to get rasgullas for my birthday. So that was the state of affairs, that milk was not available. And today it is that even if you have guests at home and you realize that there is no yogurt, you'll immediately call Blinkit and within 5 minutes it's delivered at your doorsteps. Our preferences are also changing, because earlier it was milk, but today it is, you get flavored milk, you get so many milk products, nicely packed, and you are sure that they are hygienically packed, and whatever is written on the packet, you can trust that. And for that, of course, there are many brands within the country, but in Delhi, I'll say it's Mother Dairy as well as Amul, which has become a household name. And people, they rely on it, and they are very happy with the products. It's a vast sector, and as Madam Alka mentioned, that it is for the sustainability of the farmer. You look at sustainable farm, they also hold a couple of animals, and that is what is for their own consumption. Of course, there are cooperatives, and one of the best example of cooperative movement is by Amul in the milk sector. It goes without saying. So it is from smallholder to commercial operations involving smallholder farmers and so on. Now, again mentioned by Madam that there is a huge ecological footprint. We all consider agriculture to be a clean activity. And usually in agriculture, we tend to forget about the animals. And even when we look at agriculture, its footprint is 16% to the total climate change. We blame industrialized countries, but somewhere we also have to look into that the activities which we consider to be clean are also adding to climate change. Now, as students of science, you will say, how can it be? The plants they basically absorb carbon dioxide and water and give us carbohydrates, so they are cleaning that atmosphere. But then how it has ecological footprint, and that is largely the way we have changed, green revolution, everything green. It depends on consumption of fertilizers, which leave huge footprint. It is production of fertilizer, which is very energy intensive. It is transportation of fertilizer. It is application of fertilizer. When you spray urea, the plant will absorb urea from the roots or from the plant. It gets dissolved in water and then the plants absorb it. Now, what percentage of water is absorbed by the plant? So quite a bit of the fertilizer, it pollutes our environment, and quite a bit of the fertilizer that goes to the underneath water and spoils our aquifers. And the water, potable water, it gets unfit for drinking purposes also because of high nitrogen, high ammonia, and so on. So agriculture itself. Now let's come to animals. We are very proud of being #1 country in milk production. But let's also look at productivity per animal. We have to go a very long way. Let's look at your own lives versus the life of the animal. You have Yakult. All of you have gone into probiotic yogurt production. Why? You want to have a comfortable living. And that's why you have realized the role of microbes it can play to make our lives more comfortable. Have we invested that much on animal feed? We are not worried about the animal. For us, it is largely that, okay, methane is a problem, and of course, as a country also, we are being questioned how much of methane production or how many animals, and the world is worried, including India, because methane is over 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And therefore, its mitigation is very crucial. We really have to worry about it. The manure management practice add another layer of complexity, emitting both methane and nitrous oxide during storage and application on fields. And approximately 10% of global methane emissions come from the manure management. And additionally, soil processes used to grow crop feeds again contribute to nitrous oxide emission, which are 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So methane was 25 times and the nitrous oxide is 300 times. So that's what the worry is. Energy-intensive milk production and distribution processes further contribute to sector's carbon footprint. And again, going back, say 30 years back, it was basically Dudwala who will get you the milk delivered at your doorsteps, or at the most, you can say, then came the pouches or DMS milk, and then came pouches, and then the entire cycle of delivering milk changed. And now we also have long shelf life milk and so on, which adds to, which basically it is very good for convenience, but the carbon footprint goes on increasing. And the processing of milk into products like cheese, butter, yogurt, along with refrigeration and transportation, again relies heavily on fossil fuels. Now, having said that, and I'm not saying that, and as I begin my talk by saying that dairy sector is extremely important if country has to be nutritionally secure, it is that we have to look into the mitigation and ensure that the impact of dairy production on the environment and thus climate change is reduced or managed right from the beginning. And it is that we are looking into sustainable product development as a country as a whole, because if we want to survive, it's not save the planet, I'll say it's save the human beings. And those of you who are from the north, we have seen the summer this season. It was over a month when the temperatures were above 45 degrees, and it was almost like being in the oven. So it was so hot, and you know, it becomes a vicious cycle. It was your energy demand is going up, it is your air conditioning loads are increasing, and with air conditioning, you are further increasing temperature for the animals on the streets, birds on in the sky, and poor laborers who are working day and night, because they are, in addition to the heat, it's also the heat which is generated by the air conditioners. And if we look at the methane generation, one way to reduce enteric fermentation is by improving the quality of feed that is provided to the animals. High quality feed such as legumes and forage, they have already proved that you can reduce methane emissions by almost 30%. And it comes with the added advantage of, can I have some water? The added advantage of good animal health. Thank you so much. As well as the milk productivity, and in some cases, even the fat content in the milk. And similarly, feed additives such as probiotics and enzymes can decrease methane emissions by 20%, and some of the Indian farmers have already reported 15% at large scale. Now, to encourage broader adaptations of these methods, significant investments in research and development and modifications to farming practices and government and private sector support are necessary. Some of you are aware, TERI, it's a 50-year-old organization which was set up by Tata Group of Companies. It's a not-for-profit organization, and we believe in sustainability in all sectors. So we are deeply committed to addressing these environmental challenges through innovative and sustainable solutions. And recently, about a couple of weeks back, we signed MOU with the National Dairy Development Board, which is in a way testament to our shared vision of promoting sustainability in dairy farming across India. So our efforts are focused on several areas. First is eco-friendly technologies that can significantly reduce emissions from dairy farming. For example, improving feed quality and incorporating feed additives that can reduce methane emissions. I'll give you one example how it can work. We had a project on biofuels in which what we noticed that best of the alga will give you 30–40% of the lipid. And you're left with 60% or so. If you want for fast growth, it won't be even more than 20%. Now, that algal mass, the de-oiled algal cake, it is a great additive in animal feed. The production cost of alga, which comes to 10 rupees, if you give it to the animal, it gives you 1 liter more of milk production. It increases by 1 liter, and fat content almost 1%. So that is a and it is being done by the Rajasthan Dairy. They have adopted that, and it has been proven on a large scale. How it becomes even, it doesn't cost you 10 rupees. First of all, the strain of alga is the marine strain, so you are not using fresh water. You get carbon credits for growing alga. Lipid, which otherwise is not viable, it becomes one of the products, because if you're saying 10 rupees contributed by animal feed and 10 rupees for this entire process of biofuel production also become viable. And on top of it, you will get carbon credits for fixing carbon dioxide by the algae. So that way, one can look into different feeds which can be grown and earn carbon credits as well. The second area is of manure management. And we are promoting better management practices to mitigate methane and nitrous oxide emissions. And these includes the adoption of anaerobic digesters, which convert manure into biogas, a renewable energy source, and nutrient-rich slurry. Again, let's look into where are the gaps, because you'll say biogas is a known technology for over 40 years now, but we are still stuck with the design. Many a times it doesn't work during winter months especially, and productivity is low. So again, we have to work on these various aspects, and that is where dairy has developed microbes to work on the cow dung along with agriculture residues of different kind, so that you can have large-scale biogas plants and technologies of bio-CNG, as well as its direct usage. So the manure, actually, it becomes a resource. It is not a waste, so that is what one should look into. We come to the next point, and that is the cold chain. Because in many of the villages, while the villages have been electrified, the supply of electricity is not that reliable, and especially during the summer months. So over...
Dr. Dhawan, I'd just like to mention that the time is up.
Sure.
But you could just...
Yeah, I'll just wrap
in
up.
the next 1 minute.
Yeah,
please.
so therefore, can we make use of renewables? And that again has been done with number of clusters which we would like to take, and sustainable agriculture practices. Again, that how do you grow your fodder at minimum cost, and again reducing the emissions coming from the agriculture sector. So that's what our partnership with NDDB will do in the future. It's focus on training, capacity building for farmers to adopt best practices, and we are also looking at government initiatives such as Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme and Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi and so on. The sector is very diverse, and that is what I'll say. You have expertise in the dairy sector. We have expertise in how do we reduce emissions from the dairy sector, and how do we make use of renewables. So thank you very much, and I do look forward to more of sustainability in this sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dhawan, and I sincerely apologize for interrupting, but for interest of time and we have a long list of speakers. Now I would request Mr. Sangram Chaudhary, Managing Director, Banaskantha Milk Union, to give his thoughts. In fact, responsible dairying through these small livestock holders has been the success of cooperative movement in India, and also has seen the rise of a brand like Amul, which is now a global brand, a leader brand in the dairy industry. But starting from those members who have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 livestock or cattle with them or buffaloes with them, to becoming a global brand, how do you think you envisage the role of cooperatives in sustainable farming of livestock, and how you can reduce the carbon footprint that is alleged to be coming through this sector?
So good afternoon, all of you. Thank you, Madam Secretary. I would like to thank FIL and IDF and NDDB and the Ministry of Animal Husbandry for one particular reason, is that I'm particularly happy to meet all of my friends here for all these 35 to 38 years which I've been working. Friends, I come from a place which is very unique. We have 10 million liters of dairy processing plant. We have India's largest milk producing villages, 60,000 liters of milk produced by a village round the year, and the balance sheet is 150 crore rupees of each village. We have very little water. We have annual rainfall of about 15 to 20 inches. And we are just part of the run of Kutch, the desert of Kutch. And we have semi-arid soil, but we have milk. So, and as I was talking to Madam Secretary, that milk is water intensive after meat. We need to worry. Life emanates from soil, water, and sunlight. So we need to worry if the life has to sustain all three. You need not worry about the sunlight because it's abundantly available by the nature, but you need to give back to the soil and you need to worry about the water. So I have a small presentation. I will run it through as if time permits, or otherwise I'll leave it for you. As we all know, global warming, climate change, thousands of people dying is no good news. In Mecca, every day we are listening. In Delhi, in some parts of the country, some part of the world, people dying, there's no good news. The Indian uniqueness of Indian dairy system, you all are aware, smallholder agriculture system, subsidiary occupation, predominantly run by women, residual feeding system, not grain intensive. But we have challenges like high temperatures, the temperatures are rising, deficit quality fodder. I will come to that. India is highly deficient in green and dry fodder. Animal nutrition, as Madam was talking about, proper nutrition is not available. In fact, many of our livestock is underfed and malnourished. In such a system, we are most lucky to have 230 million metric ton of milk and with 6% of growth rate. But would it sustain? I have some worries and some hopes. We come with some practices which give hope. Large number of meat animal, low productivity, depleting groundwater. We all are knowing that. I come from Banaskantha district, which has about 3 million registered milk livestock, 1 million across 8 state milk producers, 7.8 million kg per day of average milk collection, and highest milk collection is 10.4 million liters in a day. And we do about $2.5 billion business with Amul. Milk rate, we have been growing at 5.13 CAGR in terms of one of the best paying dairy in the country to the producers. More than 83% of our rupee, 0.6% of procurement compound growth. We pay about 1,100 crore rupees per month to the farm milk producers. Last year we paid about 948 rupees per kg fat. We have a large number, 300 veterinarians to provide back-end supply to animal health, and 195 mobile vans. Nurturing good growth amidst the adversity. We have varied terrain, we have sparse vegetation, we have moderate infrastructure, harsh temperatures, limited employment opportunities, dogmatic conservative society, deep and brackish groundwater, lack of industries, and low literacy rate. But this has been blazing in disguise. We collect 8 million liters of milk every day from a single district of 1,500 villages. This has happened because of circular economy initiatives. Here come in 2016, the Prime Minister visits us and gives us a direction that you must do something about water and environment. So then the present chairman takes some initiatives which are helping us. We set a vision for ourselves. We will strive to be the best dairy cooperative with productive and sustainable dairy farming and products meeting global needs by strengthening our values, cooperative movement, women empowerment, regenerative agriculture. We are engaged in improving the soil condition with Isha Foundation of Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudevji. And let me tell you, our soil has degraded to 0.4% of organic carbon. We have a target to reach to 3% of organic carbon. We have taken 40 villages. We are making experiments. We've seen very, very encouraging results. So these are certain initiatives which put into action. Tree and seed ball plantation. For last 10 years, we've been the Amul Green Award winner. We've been growing the maximum number of trees in the state and among our member unions. As I said, Safe Soil Initiative to improve the organic carbon of the soil. We have set a target to ourselves. We have made a promise to ourselves that we want to be carbon neutral by 2047, the 100th year of independence of India. This is we have promised to Prime Minister of India also. And he's been following up very vigorously with us. Water conservation. When Prime Minister came next time, he says, what about your ponds? So we started deepening ponds. We have ambition to rejuvenate our rivers, which were perennial rivers. Now they are not perennial rivers. We are called Banaskantha because we are on the banks of Banas River. Banas is Banvas. It was destroying forest river. Now it is a dry river. We want to rejuvenate it and make it a perennial river. Now this is not easy. So what we've been doing is that we've been planting trees. We are supplying saplings to farmers. We are planting millions of trees. We are putting millions of seed balls into our hillocks to make green cover. The Ambaji and Aravali hillocks, which have now become barren. We have long-term plans to make them more greener and then increase the forest cover so that there is more precipitation coming to our district. So then Prime Minister tells us to make use of gobar and cow urine. So we have the first entirely cattle dung based plant, 40 tons of cattle dung input per day, capacity 600, 700 kg of gas per day, working for last 3 years. We have MOU with Suzuki to put 5 more plants, and bio-CNG plant at Dama. I just invite some of you who can make to our place what we are doing. We also, with NDDB, we are splitting methane and making hydrogen and carbon black on an experimental basis, but we have planned to do that. So, Safe Soil, as I've talked about you, from 0.4% organic carbon to 1.1 to 3% carbon. We have covered 30 villages, 259 ponds have been deepened, and about 220 million cubic feet of water every year when the rains come, we conserve. So, and then we are very lucky to have high irradiance of solar, and we have put up 5.7 megawatt of solar harvesting. We are planning to harvest 500 megawatt of power from solar paneling and provide the whole district solar power to our village societies and all this thing. Sustainability of fossil fuel reducing. We have now PROM, we have liquid fertilizers, we have put bacteria into it. That gives us a lot of advantage of organic farming. So my time is over, but I would mention that ration balancing program was started with Banaskantha first, and Banaskantha continues to ration balancing program, and it gives us reduces feeding cost by 16.3 rupees per animal, and it gives 25.5 rupees increase in the income. Fodder is a very bad sin, so we are now improving the fodder seeds. We have carbon. What we need to work on is carbon footprint of milk, measure, analyze, and reduce. Water footprint of milk and dairying as a whole. Eco-friendly technologies to reduce cost of milk production. Cattle productivity, we've been doing NDDB, and together we've been doing many things. Symbiotic, let me finish with my very favorite understanding. Homo sapiens do not have a privileged right on this planet. And we need to work in a symbiotic relationship with livestock, soil, water to live longer and leave soil as a future inheritance to next generation with healthy organic carbon content. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chaudhary, for one, sticking to time, and number two, all the initiatives that you have taken for a sustainable farming system. And what really comes out from the presentation is the multidimensional aspects which have been taken care of and several initiatives that you have done. I'm sure this would be the founding principle for all other cooperatives in the country. They should also take similar initiatives. Now, in fact, while you were speaking, I just had a small interaction or small exchange on message with Mr. Minesh Shah. So you see, and I'll just take a minute over here, allow me this 1 minute, please. So, you know, when I joined NHI as chairperson NHI, I was, and I have said this in several conversations, but there's a context, that I was presented 2 books which were an autobiography of Indra Nui. I don't know, they thought leadership, etc., etc. So, but one takeaway from that book was, she said Pepsi had been accused of guzzling millions and millions of liters of water and being, in fact, she used a very harsh word, totally an enemy of the environment. So that somehow stuck with me because as we build highways, we also take off a lot of trees and a lot of trees which are like hundreds of years old. But we are also planting trees on the median, on the sideways, avenue plantation, etc. So I said, let's come out with a sustainability report and see where do we stand. So we took out the first sustainability report, then the second one came. When I moved out of NHI, I kept following up with the person who had initiated this, that please come out with the next version of the sustainability report which they are working upon. Now, the context here is the dairy industry has to take lead in bringing up this sustainability report, and this also has a context with the next speaker we have, because Mr. Brian Lindsay, who's the Director's Dairy Sustainability Framework and Sustainability Lead, Global Dairy Farm Platform, and I'm also told NDDB is working in collaboration to see how we can also do this kind of a sustainability report. One, to benchmark where we are, and two, to progressively see where we move in terms of actions or affirmative actions being taken by Banas Dairy and other dairy cooperatives. So I think this is something we should do very proactively. We will work on this. I had briefly mentioned this earlier, but it also fell between the cracks. Now over to you with this context. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to NDDB and IDF colleagues and partners for giving us the opportunity to share with you today exactly what the Chair just talked about how do we tell our story. All the work I hear about going on in India is just fantastic sustainability work. Others outside our sector maybe aren't hearing this message, and we've got to find a way to package that. And I just thought I'd share with you today a bit about what the dairy industry is doing collectively to try and tell that story, build that narrative about dairy, the positive work that we're going on. But before I start, I was just sitting there while Sangram was talking and think, isn't the cow great? It produces great nutrition. It blends in with biodiversity. It lifts people out of poverty. It can recycle byproducts of other agricultural commodities. What a wonderful animal we have, and what a great service it does for humanity. Just to get us in context, and we've heard this a couple of times over the last few days about the value of dairy to society. 1 billion people rely on the dairy sector daily for income, for their livelihoods. 6 billion people globally are requiring dairy for nutrition. We've got 133 million dairy farmers globally. We've got 37 million dairy farmers led by women, 80 million women working on dairy farmers. It's great for gender recognition as well. Dairy is number 1 by value in the world traded commodities, number 3 by volume. It provides 10% of protein, 9% of fat, and 5% of energy in our diets. It is a wonderful product. Dairy is so versatile, it can be broken down into 3,000 different products, ingredients that can be used in other industries. So it's a powerful industry we have, and we should not lose sight of that. Getting data is important. We've got plenty out there who take data and try and build our story for us, and we need to be careful about that, and we need to have the data to be able to not defend but proactively share our story. We've got other data sources out there that people just extract the data, not really going into the data mining and understanding the value of that data and how it should be communicated. And then we've also got the climate change conferences where the data we generate, the narrative we generate, is shared with those who are deciding the policies we're going to have to implement in the future. We take the outputs of the Dairy Sustainability Framework to these meetings. And we're actually helped at COP28, where the agriculture negotiations included another specific title, food security. And that's where dairy is also a vital part of that story as well. And we will be there with the data, representing dairy, making sure that those who are deciding our policies in the future are understanding the great efforts that dairy are going to collectively. And then there's around these UN negotiations, the United Nations Environment Assembly that talks about diversity. They talk about the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity, and they have programs that are getting closer to looking at agriculture on soils. But then there's lots of activity around these negotiations that involve others who are maybe deciding where dairy needs to go in the future. We need to have our narrative. We need to have data that underpins our narrative to be able to robustly engage and positively engage in these negotiations and discussions to make sure we're fairly represented. But importantly, we're part of that story going forward. The Dairy Sustainability Framework is just that. It's not a certification scheme. It's not a program on judging your sustainability. It's a framework. So regardless of where you're starting your sustainability journey, there's a place for you in this framework. We'll take the data from wherever we get it, and this is the model that we provide. It's about making sure we have livelihoods, looking after the environment, making sure the economies are there as well on the social aspects. That triple bottom line type approach, we make sure it covers all three, not just one that so many who challenge us will just tackle us with. Governance, it was set up by the global dairy industry. And two of my board members are in the room here today. Dairy Asia is sitting on my board, and Dr. Shah sits on my board to make sure that the decisions we're making at the DSF at a global dairy level are right for the farmers and the industry in India. We then have more regional representation as well. Dairy Asia gets 2 seats on the board of the DSF because we recognise the value that they bring to the discussion. The DSF, this is part of building our narrative. We're able to demonstrate the success we're having, or not, at scale. So we're representing currently 30% of global milk production, which is over 52% of global formal milk production. We're able to go into these discussions to say we actually can represent global dairy industry. But this is part of our narrative. This is high-level information, but it paints a picture on how we're monitoring and reporting the collective sustainability progress of the industry. We build the report every year, and we put it in 6 different languages. We need to make it accessible to those who want to see our data. We cover this through 11 sustainability criteria under the 3 pillars of sustainability. We don't expect our members to have an improvement program in all 11. You go through and identify what is the priority in your area. We just heard from Sangram about the challenges in Banas. That will be different in other parts of the world. You focus on what are the challenges in your unique situation. But we also widen that dialogue away from just climate. We got to understand the interactions between all these different criteria. You don't want to solve one and then cause unintended consequences elsewhere. That holistic view on sustainability is critically important. Last year, we just started reporting gender across the dairy value chain, and you'll see the percentage underneath. That's the percentage of our milk production in the DSF that were able to report gender last year. This year, we're hoping we get more of a percentage as we continue to build our narrative around gender across the global dairy value chain. Another collaborative initiative, of which NDDB is absolutely part of, is Pathways to Dairy Net Zero. We heard about net zero from previous speakers. This is about the dairy sector committing to reach net zero in the second half of this century. Here again, not judging, not setting targets other than that ambition to reach net zero in the second half of the century. And we have a collaborative approach to this, and we've got Dominic online here today who will be part of that team, and I'll share some of the work that FAO have already done in this space. But this is about a collective effort, and it's not just about making a statement, it's about helping our industry find solutions. And what I mean by finding solutions, and Dominic, you'll recognise this chart of GLEAM 3, an FAO model, every one of those blue dots is a country. I'm not expecting you to see all of this as we go through it, but this helps us understand how we can find solutions for a very diverse global dairy sector. Every one of those blue dots is a different country. On the y-axis, we've got kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of product. On the x-axis, we've got the literage per cow in their lactation. And what we do is we've taken this, or the colleagues at the FAO have taken this, and we've tried to break this down into different production systems that we find around the world. So we've at the top end up here, we've got pastoral and agricultural systems. At the lower end, we've got the high input, high output system. Every one of these has the opportunity to improve its sustainability. We're not judging again, but it's about finding the solutions. And then what we're able to do is look at the breakdown of methane emission, not just methane, but the 3 greenhouse gases in dairying, which is the methane, the nitrous oxide, and the carbon dioxide. Not expecting you to see all the detail, but just look at the reds. The red is the methane. And look at the difference in methane in the different production systems. This helps us target different strategies to solve the challenge in different regions. In some regions, it might be the adoption of technology. In other regions, it might be the improvement of productivity of the individual animal, genetics and things like that. As farmers, as a smallholder farmer myself, I don't want to be putting actions in place this year to find out next year they were the wrong actions. We want to try and help our industry find the right solutions, so where we put them in place, we know they are going to make a difference, we can quantify that difference, and then we can report that difference to our stakeholders, of which there are many. Madam Chair, I will stop there, but I really encourage us to look at the quantification of the impact we're having through the actions we're taking at grassroots. It's so important to build our dairy narrative. Thank you very much.
So much, and I would just like you to remain on that slide for a moment, the last slide. The graph, yeah. So I think, firstly, thank you to have concluded so effectively and within the, or rather before time. No, not this one, the next one. Yes, this one, thanks. So I think this is a very powerful slide, and I think each one of us should take a photograph of this slide, because this clearly outlines the action points, and when we have the policy brief discussion tomorrow, I think each one of us should look at this slide, and each one of us, while going back to wherever we are in the cooperative, in the state, in the country and stakeholders, etc., we need to formulate an action strategy based on these interventions. So thank you so very much for sharing this. The other thing that comes to my mind is, we've been speaking about carbon neutrality. I think this is the time when we really need to do a predictive analytical modeling. With these interventions, when are we really going to achieve that carbon neutrality? Because somewhere we are saying 2047, as Mr. Sangram Chaudhary said, somewhere we are saying that we will achieve the same by 2070. So, today when we talk about carbon footprint, reduction of carbon footprint, each one of us talks about it rather vaguely, without really knowing what are the factors that will really lead to this particular level, or by which year. But anyway, having said that, I think these are the areas where we will need to work upon, and we'll be very happy to get support from your end as well on this. So now we've heard all the panelists, and thank you so very much. But we have some other speakers also who would come, and I think you will be doing the announcements. So please.
Thank you very much, all our eminent panelists, for that dynamic panel discussion filled with insightful perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to more individual presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's call upon our next speaker, Dr. Felix Taylard from the Animal Protection and Health Division at FAO. Dr. Taylard brings extensive expertise to our session with a PhD in agroecology and over 10 years of experience at FAO and the World Bank. He has worked on sustainable livestock development and climate-smart livestock through capacity development, data collection, and modeling. His topic today is focused on environmental drivers for sustainable dairying. Let's welcome him.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming and for the inspiring panel presenters. You will see that some of my presentation actually links quite well with what we have discussed earlier. So I want to talk about the impacts and also the opportunities for transforming the dairy sector towards sustainability. And to start, let's talk about the impacts. And it's still undeniable that on a global scale, and that's the global figure, livestock has a quite substantial contribution to the triple planetary crisis that Brian was mentioning. Dominic will present that later, but livestock contributes possibly up to 12% of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emission, and milk would contribute about 30% of that total. On pollution, livestock contribute 33% of human-induced nitrogen emissions, and milk is probably up to 43% of that total. And on biodiversity, biodiversity is complicated, but one proxy that we can use is land use for livestock, because obviously land use has an impact on terrestrial biodiversity habitats, and livestock use up to 22% of ice-free land on Earth. Let's focus a bit more on biodiversity and why it's complicated. Why it's complicated is because by nature it is, and there is no common currency for biodiversity like there is for climate change or for nitrogen emission. There is no ton of CO2 equivalent for biodiversity. The other aspect that makes biodiversity complex is that the impacts of livestock on biodiversity actually range from negative to positive. And this figure that you are seeing here comes from an FAO effort that was conducted actually with IDF on how to better measure the impact of livestock on biodiversity. And the IDF has actually adapted some of this content in one of its bulletin. And it shows that, well, first, livestock does contribute to all 5 main drivers of biodiversity loss at global scale. Those are the gray circles. Habitat change, pollution, climate change, overexploitation, and invasive species. But if you look closer, for each of those drivers, really the impacts can range from negative, from deforestation, for example, when it comes to habitat change, to positive impacts, like creating, maintaining high-quality grasslands that are habitats for biodiversity. Another important aspect of impact is that they don't stop at farm gate. And the top figure is about greenhouse gas emission, and Dominic, I'm sure, will go back to that, but looking at the contribution of the different species, the different sources of emission, it's clear that indirect emissions from livestock represent a significant part, 40%. And on biodiversity, it's actually the same thing, although we could think of biodiversity as a more local issue, because feed is also imported. Some of the impact on biodiversity can be related to this imported feed and can actually happen off-farm. And so you see on the map that systems that rely more on imported feed in the Midwest, for example, in Europe, in Asia, especially Southeast Asia, China with the monogastric production, a lot of the land use and impact on biodiversity comes actually from outside of the farm. So that was for the impact, and now what about the solutions and the mitigation? And I would like to highlight 2 big strategies that the sector can take to mitigate environmental impact. The first strategy is about efficiency and productivity. And when it comes to climate change, this means reducing what we call emission intensity, so the greenhouse gas emission per unit of milk that is produced. The equivalent of that for biodiversity, for example, would be what we call a land sparing strategy. So being more productive, being more efficient, using a smaller land area, and being able to spare some area of land for nature and for nature conservation. The other big strategy is about reduction, the absolute reduction of the impacts. And for climate change is about reducing the absolute emissions, even sequestering carbon on grassland, for example, so removing some of those emissions. And the equivalent for biodiversity would be a land sharing approach, where the agricultural landscape are with wildlife-friendly practices, so they are able to host high levels of biodiversity. To dive a bit more into this difference between efficiency and absolute emissions, I want to take the example of emissions, and first at animal level, and that's actually a little game for you. We have 2 cows here, and I'm asking you to think about which one has the highest milk productivity. That should be pretty easy, no? It's obviously the one on the left. Which one has the lowest emission intensity, so lowest emission per unit of product? And that's also the cow on the left, because it's more efficient. It's probably fed more efficiently, it's probably healthier, so it's more efficient, more productive, it has less emission per unit of milk produced. And now, which one of those two coals has the lower absolute emissions, the lowest tons of carbon that is emitted per year or through its lifetime? And this time, when I ask this question, a lot of people actually respond, the co on the left has lower emission, because we've learned that there is co-benefits between productivity and greenhouse gas emission mitigation. But that's not true. It's actually the co on the right, because the co on the left eats more, uses more energy, produces more, and it's logical that it has higher emission, and the emissions are actually quite higher. So this means that translating this individual level to the herd level, it means that in order to achieve absolute emission reduction, and that's important for this pathway toward net zero, you need to produce more with less. So you need to control the expansion of the herd. Otherwise, there will be gains in terms of emission intensity, but the absolute emission will increase as well, because replacing less productive cows by the same number of high productive cows will actually increase the absolute greenhouse gas emissions. So those were two big approaches, and that's to go into more details about what are the different practices that those strategies underlie. And the first column is really about this efficiency strategy, and it's showing a lot of benefits between co-benefits between animal health, good genetics, animal husbandry practices, feed and nutrition. All those, they have co-benefit for productivity and for reducing greenhouse gas emission intensity. The other approach, they will target the absolute emissions with circularity, for example, biogas reducing emissions, because some of the energy consumption is actually replaced by this biogas produced from manure. Land management is also one with even the potential to remove emissions, to take some of the carbon and put it back into the soil or into trees. And one last approach is actually, I think, also something we need to collectively think about, and it's, again, that those emission intensity gains, to translate into net zero, we need to control the expansion of the herd. So that's important. And we need to think about diets and how much milk is enough, and controlling this expansion, not only being more productive, but controlling this expansion. You will recognize that one. We've just showed it. But this one you haven't seen, because in Brian's version, every point was a country. Here, every point is a farm in Bangladesh, in 2 districts. And it's an exercise we did to quantify the potential mitigation from a big World Bank investment on developing the dairy sector. And it's actually interesting that the same is found at country level and at farm level. And at farm level, it actually provides an opportunity, which is an opportunity for climate finance. And there was this standard developed a few years back for voluntary carbon markets to use this relationship to make data collection easier, and basically to estimate emission intensity reduction from just measuring milk yield, which is obviously a lot less data demanding to collect.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your gracious presence and for that insightful presentation. Thank you. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, extremely sorry for that technical interruption. Let's move on with our presentations. I- Yes, now it's working.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Secretary, Shri Sangram Chaudhary ji, distinguished panelists, and dear friends. I thank IDF for inviting me to this conference. I see a lot of rain, a lot of greenery in Kochi. Now I see why Kerala is known as God's own country. Up there in Delhi is too hot. Thank you. Suzuki as an automobile company is introducing a very unique initiative, biogas as a vehicle fuel for rural development and climate change solutions. For carbon neutrality, Suzuki will also introduce EV, but biogas is better than EV in terms of ESG. This is a biogas plant of Banas in this Banaskantha. Project started in June 19. Cow dung feeding started in February 20, and gas we started selling in August 20. Cow dung was collected from 130 to 150 farmers of 4 to 5 villages and within the 10 kilometers vicinity of the plant. Feedstock which is being used is cow dung, with 40 tons of cattle feedstock during day, every day. Raw biogas production is about 2,000 cubic meters. This gives us 500 to 550 kg of CBG per day, which is sufficient to run 95 to 100 vehicles per day. CNG vehicles are very popular in India. Cost of running CNG vehicles are almost half of that of petrol vehicles. CNG is from underground. Content and biogas is the same as CNG, which is methane. Though CNG is a vintage methane, biogas is a fresh methane. We can directly use biogas to CNG vehicles with no further modification in the car. Maruti provides a great variety of CNG models, 13 of them, which is there on the screen. The Mercedes-Benz owners, they do not want to put CNG, of course. However, owners of small and affordable vehicles like Suzuki are much interested in saving fuel and fuel cost. And the percentage of CNG vehicles are higher than other companies. Last year, in financial year 23-24, we sold about 1.8 million cars, out of which 25% and more were CNG cars. Our market share in India is 41%, but in case of CNG cars, our market share is 73%. And the CNG cars are increasing every month, every year on year. Also, there are CNG stations which are close to 6,000 by the close of 23-24. And by 2030, this number will triple to 17,000 stations. Biogas as a production process. Biogas can be produced in several ways. However, because India is the largest dairy producer in the world and we have 300 million cows, so we are concentrating on cow dung. Collecting cow dung, then mix with water and put it in a digester. And after 30 days, you have methane which can be collected. And then it has to be purified. And some other gases, which is like carbon dioxide and H2S, have to be removed. And with 95% of purity, and when this gas is compressed at 200 bar, it can be supplied to a biogas dispenser. And then finally used in CNG cars to run the vehicles. Another important output is the biomanure, which is also rolled as organic fertilizers. The revenue is 30% is from this biogas plant, is 30% is biogas, and 70% is organic fertilizer. Suzuki partnered with the National Dairy Development Board and Banas Dairy in setting up 4 biogas plants in Gujarat state in India. In future, Suzuki wants to spread biogas plants all over India, even in other countries, especially agricultural economies. Automobile industries have to achieve carbon neutrality in future. W2TW is like well to wheel concept, not only the tailpipe emission, but also from energy source, how much CO2 is generated. Petrol vehicles, 1 kilometer running generates 190 grams of carbon dioxide. In case of EV, since in India more than half the power is generated by coal thermal power plants, during the power generation itself, they generate many CO2s. That's why even EV running in India generate 151 grams of carbon dioxide per kilometer. Biogas, after the calculations, it comes out that it is minus 1141 grams of carbon dioxide, which is much better than EV. How it comes is that methane, as we understand, is 28 times more harmful as compared to carbon dioxide. Cow dung generates methane if it is left as it is. If we collect cow dung, generate biogas, purify and use it for vehicles as a fuel, inject it in the engine, burn in the engine, methane can convert to carbon dioxide. This means carbon emissions can come from 28 to 1. And that's why biogas vehicle can generate minus 1141 grams of carbon dioxide per kilometer. There are financial benefits for rural people because of this biogas plant. Before, cow dung was being wasted, difficult to find a location to put the cow dung. Now, income from selling cow dung is 1 to 2 rupees per kg. Then there is biomanure, much better than chemical fertilizers. Challenge is to compete with subsidized chemical fertilizers. How to promote organic fertilizers is a key. Farmers can be producers of fertilizers. India imports 50% of the gas consumed in India. 30% of this natural gas is used for producing chemical fertilizers. So organic fertilizer can reduce natural gas consumption also. Apart from that, it provides employment opportunity for rural people when the plants are set up in rural India, of course. Coming to mode of travel in India for rural people, many of village people are living in villages only and they don't travel because of lack of affordable mobility. How to provide affordable mobility to such village people is the key to developing the villages. Distance from villages to nearest city is about 20 to 30 kilometers. How to communicate to city is the key to develop quality of life in villages. Not only vehicles price, but also fuel price are important for affordable mobility for the village people. This is a snapshot of how we can compare petrol versus CNG. One example of a taxi driver. Green bar shows the monthly income, red shows the monthly fuel cost, and yellow the vehicle lease fee. If the taxi driver can have access to CNG, fuel cost can be reduced by 40% compared with petrol. Most of CNG stations are in urban area. In villages, it is difficult to find a CNG station. If we set up biogas plants in rural areas, near from villages, we can provide biogas to village people. And by using biogas, which is 40% lower, the taxi driver can make good profit. Biogas contributes to the development of village economy that way. If biogas is made available in rural areas and village people can have small CNG trucks, they can bring many agricultural products and sell by themselves. Otherwise, many middlemen come and buy the products at very cheap rate. Biogas volume potential in India. On an average, running one CNG vehicle per day is about 60 kilometers. Mileage of CNG vehicle, it is assumed as 20 kilometers per kg. So biogas required for one vehicle for 1 day of running is about 3 kg. Cow dung required to produce 3 kg of biogas is roughly around 150 kg. As cows, how many cows are required? Then 15 kg of cow dung is given by one cow. So therefore, 10 cows are required to run a vehicle for 1 day. In India, we have 300 million cows, so that can run 30 million CNG vehicles. There are challenges, of course, with the biogas plant. How to improve financial viability of biogas plant? We need to sell gas as well as fertilizers to make the plants viable. How to sell the organic manure and improve the quality of soil and yield? Government of India is making it mandatory for fertilizer companies to increase the sale of organic manures. I would like to make SOS call to fertilizer company. SOS here means save our soils. By adding more organic fertilizers to soil and reduce the chemicals, we would need support of fertilizer companies in making this happen. How to ensure quality and purity of biogas for vehicle application. Thus, by setting up biogas plants in rural areas, we can help farmers in selling the cow dung, utilize the organic manure to improve the quality of soil, provide them affordability and affordable joy of mobility for themselves and the produce and employment. This will help in rural development. By tapping this methane and converting to CBG, we provide climate change solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agarwal, for sharing insights on biogas vehicle fuel for rural development and climate change solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, our next esteemed speaker, Mr. Dominic Weiser, will be joining us online. Can we have him on screen? Mr. Weiser, are we audible to you?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Before inviting Mr. Dominic Weiser for his presentation, let me quickly introduce him. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dominic Weiser currently is serving as Livestock Policy Officer in the Animal Production and Health Division of the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. Mr. Weiser brings a wealth of knowledge with a background in water resources management, holding both an MSc and PhD in the field, along with a BSc in civil engineering. His current focus at FAO involves greenhouse gas assessments from livestock agri-food systems using the Global Livestock Environmental Assessment Model. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Dominic Weiser for his presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really sorry I cannot be there in person, but I had to change my travel plans, unfortunately, in the last minute and pretty much wasn't in person. So I'm going to share some of our results on the latest assessment of greenhouse gas emissions from livestock and systems that you will hear at the agriculture and division of the Food and Agriculture Organization. small share of total annual demand as a flow per capita consumption. So then, what does this mean for IDF? When we start with the baseline emissions, the representative estimate for the basis onto kilotons, and we want to improve the dimension, we end up at 9 and more than 9 million for emissions from livestock systems. That's not acceptable for our regulation goals, that will violate any of our it's clear that we cannot continue this significantly. So what we have done in the report and is to assess the technical potential to reduce emissions from livestock systems to lower household emissions. And the first option we can do is on one side is increase the emission. And one thing that we look at is dietary changes. Of course, we can reduce the overconsumption of protein. But we must not forget that many so that we have to increase protein intake and the combined effect of reduction of consumption and increases loading calories is actually only big part of it. What we can also do, of course, is reduce food loss and waste. No waste is another important area where we also reduce food loss and waste, not only via production, but also increase the businesses. The next thing, of course, we have measures for the on-farm operations. And we have already heard about activity increases, the developments, but also more broadly, value chain. There's a lot of potential for improvements to really develop and even nutrition improvements. That is, of course, something not only very actively the report case study the index of the feed ratio improvement emissions, showing very, very reductions in emissions across the feed quality and increasing also the production, increasing farmers. And then, of course, we have the evolution of health, the best in terms of Cooperative, the discount of the best products, and then, of course, lower further. Then, of course, we have some other solutions, and we've been consulted on the cloud area, the instruments to go increase carbon content in soils, still better. We have the whole issue of circular and bioeconomy, presentation, really speakers with the use of manure, biogas, for instance. And related to this also the use of food management and less emission for on-farm, for machinery, for processes. And again, different interventions further help us with this. So then, what we can see from this chart, we have many options available to reduce emissions
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiser, for joining us at the first IDF Regional Dairy Conference and for sharing expertise on greenhouse gas assessments and livestock agri-food systems. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on, next we have Mr. Balachandran NK, Head of Growth at Ibiza Network, an InsurTech startup, who will be discussing mitigating losses from climate extremes through index-based insurance solutions. With over 15 years of experience in rural and agriculture insurance, Mr. Balachandran has pioneered innovative approaches, including launching heat insurance in India. Please join me in welcoming him to share his insights. Thank you.
Thank you and very good afternoon, everyone. I know this session is standing between you and the traditional sadhya. Being from Kerala, I can vouch it's going to be delicious, but I will try to make it as fast as possible. Before starting, let me thank Ministry as well as NDDB for giving us this opportunity to present this innovative climate risk insurance concept, because for the last 1.5 hours, we have been discussing on various aspects of climate change and dairying. So insurance or climate risk insurance is another way of coping up with the climate challenges, climate change related issues that we are facing. So let me just introduce quickly about what we do. We are an InsurTech startup, a global entity focusing only on climate risk insurance products. We are operational in multiple locations. India is one of our prime markets, but we do operate in Philippines. We do operate in multiple countries in Africa. We have recently expanded to Bangladesh as well. So we don't do anything other than climate risk. So our expertise lies in data modeling, data analysis, in terms of designing products that can cater to climate change. So in insurance language, we call it as index insurance or parametric insurance, and that is what we do. Coming to dairying and climate change, we all know that summer heat stress is one of the unavoidable things that we all deal with, because it's the lean season, and that is where the heat stress related losses occurs, and that's a huge income loss for the farmer. Actually, he's living away with that concept, or he's living with that concept over these decades, that every year, these 3 months, my income is going to be lower as compared to other months, because a normal cow which gives 10 liters of milk is going to give only 7 to 8 liters. We all know the facts behind that. But this is one challenge that the farmers are facing, and maybe that has opened up some thoughts, and being a dairy technologist and knowing a bit about insurance has helped us to design a bit of bringing in a new technology or a new insurance kind of a product that can address this challenge of income loss. So the quantum of income loss, the quantum of productivity loss is something I will not get in detail about too, but the important factor that I want to highlight is that it's a new concept, new innovation, which we have tried and tested with few pilots in 2023, but we have successfully done it in large scale in this summer, and we all have seen how the temperature has been on a higher side in this 2024 summer, because 2023, as per IMD, is the second highest, recorded the second highest average temperature, but I'm sure that 2024 is going to break all these records. So this is one aspect that we can't control, but what best we can do is mitigate that risk with certain risk mitigation tools, and insurance is one such risk mitigation tool. And coming to this heat index insurance, it's very simple, and whenever we design insurance products, and I hope the reality lies in designing simple, innovative, affordable products. Heat index insurance is a simple product which is based upon temperature. It's not based upon any other parameter. So if temperature goes above the defined threshold of that particular region, it is correlated to the fact that, or it is deemed to be believed that the production in the animals will definitely go down. So we don't actually go and check whether there is a production loss or not. If temperature of that particular region goes above the threshold, no questions asked, the farmers is given a payout. And it's affordable and accessible, because one of the biggest challenge in cattle insurance penetration, in the conventional cattle insurance penetration, is the challenges in terms of onboarding. We need to do the tagging, we need to take the photograph, we need to do the health certificate. Then all those conventional process delays is something that hinder the penetration of insurance in India. But this index insurance, in any kind of insurance that we do in parametric, doesn't require this kind of animal identification. So it's easy to implement, easy to administer, because we are not, actually we are insuring the event, we are not insuring the cattle. So that is the difference in index insurance as well as conventional insurance. So the product is affordable. We have the average premium rate for that animal, for per animal is just 100 rupees for that season. That is the average premium rate that we have seen for the last 2 seasons. So a farmer doesn't feel that, okay, I'm paying too much for the insurance, and the product is something that he relates to, because he understands that loss that he has seen every season. So it's something that he can relate to, it's affordable, and it protects his income, because the payouts are equivalent to the kind of losses that he faces during that period. And it's very, very simplified in terms of process, because as a farmer, I don't need to call up the insurance company and tell that there is a loss. I don't need to register the claim. I don't need to get the death certificate. I don't need to get the certificate from the veterinarian. So actually, he doesn't have to intimate regarding the claim. If temperature goes above, he gets a payout, which is automatically given to the account of the farmer. So it's as simple to administer and implement. So that is where the product has been successful so far. And it has 2 different variants. We can actually design 2 different products. One is a consecutive temperature cover, when the temperature of that threshold goes above that particular fixed temperature continuously for 5 days or 6 days or 4 days. Again, these are all customizable. And the other product is when any 4 days or any 5 days the temperature goes above the threshold during the cover period. So it can be a continuous cover, or it can be addition of the number of days where the temperature has gone above the threshold. So these are the 2 different ways of designing the concept. This is a sample or an actual product that we designed for Milma here in Kerala. For Kozhikode, Vadakara district or Taluka, the threshold is 32.5. So during the period of March to April, we just count the number of days when the temperature has gone above 32.5 for that location. So if there are 6 such days, then they get a payout of 200 rupees per cattle. If there are 9 such days, then they get 400. If there are 12 such days, they are actually getting 1,000 rupees. There's a mistake, it's mentioned as 800, but it's actually 1,000 rupees. So that is the kind of product that we have designed and implemented here. If quick about what we did in 2023, we started with a small pilot, again, thanks to Milma, especially the Malabar region, who has helped us in initiating a small pilot for 6 districts, where we covered approximately 23,000 animals, and we were able to settle claims for 5,000 farmers. And that's how we started. The initial claim was approximately 30 lakhs in 2023 season. That is what we settled. And in 2024, with the pilot, what we did, we were able to expand further. This year, we already insured more than 1,20,000 cattle, which benefited approximately 17,000 farmers, because the kind of temperature that we have seen in this year is quite high. The total claims that already been settled and to be settled, including the payments under process, is approximately 3 crores. So that is the kind of settlement that the farmers are going to get, and few of them are already settled. So we have expanded from a few districts to multiple states because of the success that we had in 2023, and I hope we will continue doing that in the coming months as well. This pilot also helped us in expanding this concept to Bangladesh, because that is another country which is close to us and they have the similar dairying pattern. And we have already launched this product in Bangladesh as well, along with Green Delta Insurance, which is one of the leading insurers in Bangladesh. And APDS is an entity which provides cattle loans. So we have already implemented this concept there as well. Advantages, as I said, it is low ticket size. That is the biggest advantage. 100 rupees or 150 rupees is something farmer feel that, okay, I'm not spending too much out of my pocket. He relates to that product, because any insurance product or any product that we bring to the market is something that should be, the customer should be able to relate with that product, because heat index related stress is something that all farmers relates to. And another important aspect, as I said, is about the administrative aspect. No need of loss assessment on ground, no need of tagging, or no need of health certificate issuance, so it's easy to implement. Faster claim settlement, we have actually settled the fastest claim, I would say, this season. We were able to settle claim to the Ernakulam region within 12 working days of the policy period. So that is, the turnaround time is fast in terms of settlement of claims. And product development can be done at taluka level. So that is the lowest threshold that we can go, because the data is available. We use satellite data for measuring this temperature, and that is available at taluka level. So we can go up to a sub-district or a taluka level for designing this concept, which will be more closer to the ground level temperature. And way forward, we feel like the kind of success that we have seen, the little success that we have seen, we will be able to institutionalize this product, reaching to the large scale, because this is a need of the hour, and farmers will be highly benefited with such a product, because it has to be, the awareness has to be generated. I hope such platforms will definitely help us in taking this product to the last mile. And large-scale implementation through milk unions is the way forward, because if we need to reach to last mile, I guess distribution is something that will be really helpful. And expand to other countries beyond India, wherever such kind of a climate risk or heat-related risk and such pattern of dairying is followed. We would like to take it ahead to other countries other than India. Bangladesh is a small start, but yeah, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Pakistan, all these locations, the discussions are on. I hope we will be able to take it ahead in future. So yes, I will stop here, and thank you, and I would be happy to take up questions. I will be available around for the lunch. So see you and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balachandran, for your enlightening presentation. Your insights are invaluable to our discussion today.
One second. So, please come here. So, while we heard that this heat-based index, heat stress index-based insurance is now coming to the fore, and this is a private sector which has come up with a product. And especially since you mentioned that you are working in Kerala also, so Kerala Feeds, they have also done something in this aspect from the government side. I would just request Dr. B. Srikumar to come here and share your experiences in just about 3 minutes or so. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I express my sincere gratitude to Honorable Secretary, Government of India, Alka Upadhyaya, Madam, for providing me such an opportunity to present this IT-enabled farmer-centric innovation in dairy. As Mr. Balachandran really pointed out, the entire community, dairy community all over India has to address the thermal stress on animals, even not only in India, all over the world. Why did we went for such a new system was a question of our, when we analyzed the milk productivity in Kerala. If you look at the Kerala as a whole, there are two districts which produce high milk productivity, and that two districts is Idukki and Wayanad. When we looked at the temperature humidity index, we found that these two districts are in the thermal comfort zone. So, we compared the milk productivity with the two districts of Kerala and the remaining 12 districts. And it was found that most of the entrepreneurs in the other districts are not interested to continue the dairy farming due to high cost involved and low productivity of milk. Actually, our farmers are unable to predict the weather based on the conventional knowledge. So what we can do? We had a discussion with Kerala Veterinary Science University and developed such a wonderful IT-enabled, animal welfare-oriented, cost-effective, user-friendly, automatic, controlled unit. We know that the climate change is directly affecting the productivity. And most of the farmers in India, they are having a traditional system of washing their animals frequently, providing fan in the cattle shed. But all this system is based on the time-based, which is not scientifically proven. So we have taken the index of temperature and humidity to provide an IT-enabled technology to help the farmers, not only in Kerala, all over India, to improve the milk productivity. And we found that there are more than 20 farms in Kerala, including university farms, successfully managing this IT-enabled automatic controlled system. We all know that the climatic change is directly affecting the temperature, definitely rainfall, and there are indirect effects on it. But ultimately, who is suffering? The farmer is suffering. In Kerala, we are observing number of existing entrepreneurs are leaving the industry. And there are very few new young entrepreneurs are coming to the dairy sector. It is because of the poor milk productivity and cost of feeding. So how to help the farmers? That was the point of discussion. And we all know that based on this high ambient temperature, which increases the panting of the animals, expels the carbon dioxide.
My request, you're already down by 4 minutes. My request is please talk about the product, how did you do it? Because everybody in the room by now knows about the causes. Just tell what, yeah, this is what.
Madam, I will directly go to the product itself. It's a automatic controller system where we have 3 relay points. One is the roof sprinkler system, which some of the farmers is having. Then there is a fogging system using the fans, which some of the farmers are using. But what we are providing is, we are providing a temperature, humidity based, index based system, where when the animal go beyond a particular thermal stress, that system will control the entire temperature and humidity of the animal, which will maintain and also improve the milk productivity of the animal. And the sensor controlling unit was developed, is having a cost of 15,000 plus GST. And if you buy more number of this controlling unit, we can reduce the cost of installation of this unit. And all other factors like we are using 2 half HP motors and 6 fan, and it can provide this facility for 40 to 50 cows in a cattle shed. When we increase the number of cows in a cattle shed, we need to provide more number of this automatic controlled unit. So that is the system which we are working here, sir, madam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. B. Srikumar, for that very insightful presentation. Moving on to our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, next we have Mr. Sandeep Bharti, Managing Director of NDDB Mrida. Mr. Bharti holds a postgraduate degree in development management and brings over 15 years of experience in rural development, cooperative dairy and allied sectors. Since the inception of NDDB Mrida Limited, he has been instrumental as its Managing Director. We welcome Mr. Sandeep Bharti to share his thoughts on climate action in dairy value chain and its impact on SDGs. Thank you.
So thank you for inviting me on this platform, and I will discuss about only the dung part, how we have done in the last 4-5 years, how our journey was, and what impact we could have tried to make on the SDGs. So I will take you through to those presentations. So just a brief about NDDB Mrida Limited. So we started a journey on the gobar gas and the biogas about like in 2018, and down the year it was realized that to have a focus efforts on the dung and dung-based products, biogas and other fertilizers, a company was formed as a wholly owned subsidiary of NDDB in 2022. The main objective was to provide the value to the dung as well as utilization of dung in an efficient way. Second was like to more focus and R&D on the dung for the efficient utilization. And third, how can we accrue the carbon market or the carbon credits and the carbon finance to benefit the farmers of our country. So if we see in the dairy industry or the dairy farm, we have tried to put it the whole concept into the one this slide. So at the center of our like fulcrum is always the dairy farmer is there, and dairy farmer has the two things. Till now we talked about most about the milk processing and all. It also has a product, a byproduct as a dung. So milk as it goes to the dairy plants, to the societies and all. The dung also is again the byproduct or the product, we can say, if you we go down the line the presentation. The dung, which is here the model which is showing in the small biogas plant of the like 2 cubic meters, which is sufficient for the Indian conditions. It is sufficient for a family of 5 to 6 members and animal holding of 3 to 5, as mostly our Indian farmers hold in that range only 80 to 85%, about 3 to 5 animals, which is sufficient for that. So this biogas plant of the small size can get the sufficient fuel which is required for that family. And the same time, this, the digestate or the slurry, what we call, and other parts of the country it is called the digestate, this digest can be used directly to the farms, and this can help in reducing the uses of the chemical fertilizer. Apart from that, moreover, as we have the dairy value chain, in a manure value chain, what we try to establish and what we have established is, like the digestate, we purchase it from the farmer. We did a pilot in the Anand, we purchase it the farmer and we pay for the digest to the farmers. And again, this digestate is brought to a slurry processing center, and it is processed in various organic fertilizers, which will ultimately help in reducing the dependency on the chemical fertilizer. And our studies shows that by the uses of this, we can at least decrease the chemical fertilizer uses by somewhere about like 25 to 40%. In the bigger size, the model, it was earlier also shared that the Varanasi model, it is the like big gobar gas plant where we procure dung from the dairy farmers. It is brought to the one place. It is again put it into the digester of the large capacity, which is about like 4,000 cubic meter of the capacity. And the biogas which is generated out of the this dung, it is utilized in the boiler of the dairy plant, as well as it is utilized for the power generation in the dairy plant. So it is very interesting that we are using this gobar gas and we are using this dung for the processing of the milk in the dairy industry. The next part, which is already Banaskantha Dairy Union has done and other more things are coming, the uses of that biogas as a fuel for the automobile. So definitely the cars are running on that. In future, our farmer cars can run on their dung, as he was also mentioning about like 10 cows and 1 cow. That our farmer's car can also run on the dung based fuel, as well as the dairy industry. When we are talking about like how to like close the loop of not using the diesel in the vehicles and utilizing milk tankers or the milk collection vans, all those things on the biogas or the CBG produced by the dung. And interestingly, whatever the slurry part is there or the digested part is there, which is the good source of the nutrient for the fertilizer in an organic farm, for the organic farming, that can be utilized. And when we tried out to find out, like we were blamed for many of the times, like one of the largest milk animal population and largest emitter of the methane gas also. So how we are contributing to the sustainable development goals. So we have tried to find out about like 9 sustainable development goals, which we are contributing, and I will show you like how much we have tried. So these are the like 3 different models, just for a pictorial representation for your understanding, like a small biogas plant at the farmer's doorstep, which is household level. Then the centralized, which is for the industrial scale for the dairy industry, as well as with the further processing for the automobiles. And the third one is about since we have some gaushalas or the mid-sized farm, so which can be used for the electricity generation as well as the organic fertilizer production. So if I go to the first SDGs of like about the no poverty, so here we can see about like it can save on the fuel of about like something about like 15,000 rupees per annum for the per family. Till now, since 2018, with NDDB and NDDB Mrida with the and other stakeholders, we have installed something about like 30,000 small household level biogas plants at the backyard of the dairy farmers. And if we calculate the saving, we have installed for the one time, and the saving will be something about like 45 crores Indian rupees every year in terms of the saving on the fuel. The second, what we tried at the Varanasi of the procuring the dung from the farmers, so in last 15 months, it is like 1.78 crore or near about like 2 crores rupees has been dispersed to the farmers for the procurement of the dung. And at the Anand, what we are purchasing directly a slurry from the farmers. Last 2 to 3 years, we tried that model, and that is very interesting that through the sale of the slurry, the gas is used by the household itself, but by just the sale of this slurry, the women farmers, because all of them are the women and they form their cooperative. So women farmers have received about like 35 lakhs rupees in their bank account. The second part ensures about the nutrition and the food security. Since the dung was considered and the clean milk production, many things were going on, the disposal of dung was an issue. So this can help in like stopping or the improving the quality of the milk available at the farm level, as well as many of the times we were talking about the nutritional requirement of the soil. So the organic manure generated out of this will be ensuring the quality and the yield of the food. Third point is about like good health well-being. So it has been observed that due to the indoor air pollutions, many of the problems are being faced by especially the women or the children in the rural households, which can be avoided by using the clean fuel. Drudgery about the collection of the woods, and as well as the increasing the productivity, as they can save the time in that, and they can use that time for the other things. One of the reports says that a typical rural family or the woman spend something about like 374 hours in a year for the collection of the wood and all those things. The decentralized energy is available at their doorstep. You need not to go and bring the cylinders and all. It is all round the clock available there. And biogas is even 10 times clear. I think it is 30 to 40 times clearer than the LPG, because of it doesn't require the transportation and production and emission for the transportation and the production. Through this efforts, almost like 2,000 jobs has been created. Savings on fuel I have already mentioned. The very interestingly point about the Varanasi plant, it was running on the diesel, and by our efforts, almost like 4 lakh liters of the per annum of the diesel was saved, which was not burned, and the same amount or for the fuel was met from the dung. Whatever the efforts being made, about we can say 2,000 LPG equivalent cylinder per day we are saving as we are using the biogas. And this decentralized system has also moved us in a way that there is a zero, almost like negligible or zero carbon footprint. All households and the biogas plants in the last 1 year or the per annum, it can save almost like 1.5 lakh tons of carbon per annum or the equivalent per annum. And the last, everyone was mentioning about the land and the land users and the fertility of the land and the soil, organic soil carbon. So this is the more important, the life on the land. The slurry which is coming out of these plants may be something about like 8 lakh tons in a year that can be plowed back to the land, and whatever we have taken it from the land, we can give it back to the land. So with this, I would like to conclude, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sandeep Bharti, for your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, our final speaker of the session is Mr. Prashant Bharadwaj, Program Manager, Agri and Allied at Selco Foundation. Mr. Bharadwaj holds an MBA in Corporate Social Responsibility and has been driving innovations in animal husbandry at Selco Foundation. Currently, he oversees multiple value chains, including dairy, piggery, poultry, pastoral, and fisheries. His work focuses on enhancing the adaptation capacity of small and marginal livestock rearers. Over to Mr. Prashant Bharadwaj for sharing your insights. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Prashant Bharadwaj, and I'm honored to be part of this esteemed panel representing Selco Foundation. So from the past 14 years, Selco Foundation has been dedicated to the research and development of decentralized renewable energy technologies. So our goal is to enhance the livelihood and healthcare systems, thereby alleviating poverty and improve the quality of life. So I led the innovations in animal husbandry initiative at Selco Foundation, where we develop technologies that ease and enhance animal husbandry activities. Our major focus areas include dairy, poultry, fisheries, piggery, and pastoral value chain. So far, we have worked with around 2,000 farmers, creating a meaningful impact for over 10,000 farmer families across India. So despite dairy farming being the backbone of small and marginal farmers, it faces numerous challenges. Issues such as cattle health management, feed and fodder procurement, artificial insemination, and heat stress caused in climate change, and others are the pressing concerns. In response, Selco Foundation has interacted with many farmers in Karnataka to develop innovative technologies addressing these challenges. In 2023, we were searching for a dairy farmer who could champion our cause. That's when I met Mahesh, a 26-year-old dairy entrepreneur full of aspirations. Despite being a college dropout, Mahesh's knowledge on dairy farming and cattle management was on par to the veterinarians. However, his dream were hindered by heat stress, lack of green fodder, and expensive artificial insemination, compounded by erratic electric supply. So Mahesh is from Kollegal near Karnataka, a small town. He has around 15 milching animals and a production of 80 liters of milk every day. This is when we met him. So mostly over past days, what we were discussing were how dairy farming is a major source of income for farmers, yet it is fraught with challenges, especially for women farmers whose contribution often go unnoticed. The question is, how do we bridge the gap and enable better and sustainable dairy farming practices for the 75 million farmers like Mahesh in India? So some of the challenges in his farm was also on the similar grounds, like poor health, overcrowding, drudgery for managing the farm, and poor hygiene. If you see in the photo, this was the farm condition when we met Mahesh, a small tin shed where he has some calves and an open space where the cows were grazed and tied, which were prone to any kind of climate, heat, and rain stress. So we addressed his issue by testing various technology, from milking machine to solar-powered hydroponic unit to ensure cattle health. We designed an innovative cattle shed to reduce heat stress. So this is a cattle shed which we designed. The whole design was scientifically designed with a head-to-head method with ample space for free ranging of these cows. The materials which we have used here is the powder-coated galvanized iron roofing, where again we also combined with some of the fogger systems to reduce the heat inside the shed. The technologies which we gave to Mahesh was something like a speed liner milking machine attached with a pressure washer, a fogger system, a solar-powered lighting solutions, a solar water heater, all together solar-powered in a single solar-powered unit. Today, Mahesh is not only a successful dairy entrepreneur, but also an advocate for sustainable dairy farming in his region. So after the intervention, we could see a drastic change of around 25% of milk improvement in his farm. Now he is able to manage around 110 to 120 liters per day, which is almost 58% increase from his baseline. Around 75% reduction in time taking in managing the whole farm, and the cow's health has been improved drastically. So Selco Foundation has mapped out an end-to-end dairy value chain, identifying technologies and interventions at every nodal point. We are testing these technologies with our champion farmers and scaling them with multiple partners. Like for example, we have identified the technologies end-to-end at the input stage, on-farm, cooling and collection, processing and retail phase. Like yesterday, many of the speakers were discussing about the problems in artificial insemination. Few of the problems are usually because of lack of knowledge of heat detection of the cows, cold chain breach of the semen transportation, then improper thawing at the farm gate, and also poor artificial insemination. So this can be solved by some of the technologies like a smart band to detect the heat detection, a smart cap for the cryo of the semen to get a proper cold chain facilities, an improved thawing mechanism at the farm gate to do a proper thawing at the farm gate, and a smart artificial insemination gun which can be used for a proper and efficient artificial insemination. Good thing is all these technologies are demonstrated in this forum. Prompt, IDMC, ATRI, and Atsuya are the people, the partners whom we are working with are here, and with their technologies which you can experience and learn from them. So Viva ma'am was mentioning about enteric fermentation, which is a major cause for the emissions at the farm gate. And she was also mentioning about how a better and sustainable feed management can improve and reduce the enteric fermentation. So something like a hydroponics unit at the farm can be a very good model to reduce the enteric fermentation, and when this hydroponics is powered by solar or a renewable energy, then it will be more sustainable. So similarly, Alka ji was mentioning about how do we account this? Like how do we get the baseline? How are we saying that this is the emission? What is the improved, like is there any reduction in the emission at the farm gate? So to know that, like we are also working on the same smart band which can capture some of the emissions in the farm gate and which can be measured at the farm gate level. So what are we solving at the ecosystem level? We are solving the drudgery and livelihood by improving the technology, by by decreasing the time spent on the farm by improved technology like milking machine, pressure washers, solving the climate and health by adding some technologies like smart cow band and good artificial insemination, and solving the market by improving the cold chain facility, by improving the milk quality at the market level. So the dairy farm of the future is a place where technology, sustainability, and animal welfare are integrated to produce high quality milk and dairy products. Someone was mentioning in the first panel that the future is today. So let's start working on it from today, and let's all work together for the climate action. Thank you.
I think this was a very enriching session, and I don't know about the audience, but I was held captive by the details of discussion, and so very many new points have come up. I think now, seeing the paucity of time, what we can do is, because we've had discussions, we can just open the floor for any questions or any further observations on the topics that have been discussed today. I think another 10 minutes or so. So the gentleman in blue on the right, and then the gentleman with the yellow turban. And I would appreciate if you introduced yourself, keep the question crisp, and also mention whom is the question directed to.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. Myself, Dr. Rajaratnam. I work for the UNDP project for sustainable development through livelihood programs. So my question to Mr. Sangram Chaudhary and also to you, madam. Presently, around 293 million cattle are being reared by 75 million dairy farmers in India. Take into consideration of average of yield of 10 kg cow dung per day per cow, we have more than enough amount of cow dung in the urine is there. Now question is there, how we can make a roadmap for effective use of cow dung and cow urine on time-bound basis within the period of 10 years in the whole country, instead of only one part of the area. This is what question is there. And also I want to know that what's the economic benefit the farmers are going to get it, and also economic benefit for the entrepreneur. This is my question to you. Thank you, madam.
Dr. Raja, I think the father of white revolution was one person who was very foresighted, and he built the institutions for the very purpose to disseminate the scientific breeding, feeding, and management practices across the country. Ministry of Animal Husbandry is also taking the programs which are scientific in nature and disseminating. It is true that India being a very large country and the kind of livestock which we have, overnight we are not going to reach anywhere, but the solid effort is yielding results that you can see. This platform for IDF and other institutions is doing the same thing, disseminating the knowledge sharing which all the stakeholders. And I think this is the only way we can go ahead. And then today's appropriate farmer-centric innovation. I congratulate the gentleman from Celcon. He's done a very good presentation. I would invite him to Banaskantha to come and work with us if possible. You are most welcome. So together we can do it, Raja. Thank you.
I'll further supplement to what Mr. Chaudhary just mentioned. So you see in this waste to wealth, and that is probably your question, as to how are we proceeding ahead. So there's this Govardhan program that the government runs, and this is being administered by the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation. So it's not only animal husbandry, it is not only the dairy cooperatives, it is another department, and they are working with MNRE, they are working with the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and several other departments where this process is already in place and a lot of work is being done, and the advancement has been very positive. So to just give you confidence that the government is taking this up very seriously.
Good afternoon. I am Amarjit Singh from Milford, Punjab. My question is regarding climate action. In cooperatives, milk producers having 3 to 5 cattle constitute the major share in the total. So far, cooperative model have been successful due to these small producers, but it is hard to say that how long it will continue to be successful, given the fact that small farmers are no more interested to continue because either the input cost has increased or the youth is not interested to engage in this profession. So managing carbon footprint with scattered population is a challenge, and our efforts to reduce carbon emissions can be less effective and slow. So we need to think of some other cooperative model. So one such model could be engaging farmers to pool their resources to achieve economies of scale. Community farming, I think, is the right term to use, and it will be quite easy to manage carbon footprint. What is your opinion about this?
So you see, the cooperative model so far has proven to be very successful, and whether be it Gujarat, whether be it Karnataka, whether be it Punjab, whether be it Haryana, and so many more, so many other states, it has proven to be very successful. There are challenges. You are also aware that almost there is a sharing of space of 50-50% in the organized sector by the cooperatives and by the private sector. So having said all of this, it's not that the private sector is not in the field. I will take the example of Uttar Pradesh, where for whatever reasons the cooperative base is not very strong, but there are private players which are there and who have an equally efficient system of management of collection of milk. So as long as we are formalizing the sector, and I do know that there is more effort required in formalizing the sector, because I think it's only, if I'm not mistaken, roughly 40% of the milk goes into, or it's 49, but I'm just getting a little confused on the figures, which goes into the organized sector, and a large, almost half of it is in the unorganized sector. So once we have both the private player, the cooperatives, the milk producer companies, efficiencies and the economies of scale that you're talking about will be there. And as far as we've just seen the presentation given by the gentleman, Mr. Bhardwaj. So the farmers will also have to take on the progressive methods of farming. I mean, just like in the Green Revolution and thereafter, the farmers have improved their farming practices. So similar farming practices need to be adopted and replicated even in the livestock sector. Orange.
Hello, this is Punyamurthy, ethno-veterinarian. See, when slurry is being, I'm talking about the biogas production is a very good component in addition to milk. The farmers are getting assured income from other materials from the thing, which is also posing a problem to the environment at the local level. When we are thinking about the large scale thing, when the slurry is getting back into the soil microbiome must be taken into account. So all the more relevant that ethno-veterinary medicine must be expanded so that natural products are used in the animal health care, so that we don't create more pressure on the soil microbiome, which is going to take part into the One Health aspect of crop production. So this is a very important point we have to consider.
Thank you very much for drawing our attention to this. It's actually very, very important. Thank you. Anyone else? So, people are hungry. So, I think, and nobody wants to be a bad boy or a bad girl by asking a question coming in way of lunch. I would like to thank the panelists and the speakers on the dais who have given their views. I'm very thankful for the gentleman who joined us online and gave a brilliant presentation. It's indeed been a great honor to be amongst all of you, both the audience as well as the panelists. I hope that whatever we have spoken about is, I have taken down certain points for action. I'm sure the repertoire for the group would also have taken down some points. And as a deliverable of this conference that we hosted in the last, for the past 2 days and one more day to go, we will be able to come up with certain policy briefs which can be circulated both in the country as well as other participating countries. So thank you all very much. I would, in the end, request if any one of the panelists have a last concluding remark to make over here, please go ahead, anyone. I think panelists are also don't want to be in the way. So thank you. You don't want to be bad boys too. So thank you all very much, and I think now we can do the felicitation.
Thank you very much, madam. But before we wrap up, may I request all of us speakers and the audience to kindly remain seated. Ladies and gentlemen, before we indulge into the delicious Kerala Sadhya lunch that awaits you, let me take few more moments of your time. Next, we are going to honor our esteemed speakers, following by an exciting launch of 2 new Amol products. So kindly remain seated. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Alka Upadhyaya IAS to kindly present mementos to all our panel members and speakers as a token of our appreciation. Madam, please honor Mr. Sangram Chowdhury, Manager Director of Banaskantha Milk Union. Thank you very much, sir, for your gracious presence and for your insightful presentation today. We are indeed deeply honored to have you today with us. Thank you very much, sir. Madam, next kindly honor Mr. Brian Lindsay. Thank you very much, Mr. Brian. Thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you very much for your enlightening presentation. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, next may I humbly request Ms. Alka Upadhyaya to please honor Dr. Felix Taylor. Thank you very much, Dr. Felix, for your presence and for your wonderful presentation. We also thank our online presenter, Mr. Dominic Weiser, at this moment. Ma'am, please honor Mr. Rajiv Agarwal. Thank you very much, Mr. Rajiv Agarwal, for your presence and for that insightful presentation today. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Rajiv. Ma'am, next please honor Mr. Balachandran MK. Thank you very much, Mr. Balachandran. Thank you very much, Mr. Balachandran MK, for your gracious presence and for that wonderful presentation. Ma'am, please honor Mr. Sandeep Bharti, Managing Director, NDTP Mridam. Thank you very much, Mr. Sandeep. Thank you very much for all the beautiful insights you shared with us today. Thank you very much. Madam, nextly, please honor Mr. Prashant Bharadwaj. Thank you very much, Mr. Prashant, for that wonderful and insightful presentation. And finally, ma'am, please honor Mr. B. Srikumar. Thank you very much, Mr. B. Srikumar, for joining us today and for the beautiful presentation. And now let me request Dr. Meenesha, Chairman of NDTB and Secretary, INC IDF, to please honor Ms. Alka Upadhyaya, IAS. Thank you very much, Ms. Alka Upadhyaya, IAS, for efficiently moderating the session and for all the wonderful insights you shared with us. Thank you very much. And may I request all of our speakers, including Dr. Meenesha, to kindly join us for a photo op. Please, sir, all of you together, kindly join us for a photo op. May I request all our panel members and audience to kindly remain seated. Nextly, we will invite all of you to the launch of two amazing products from Amul. Amul high protein milk as well as Amul chocolate whey protein concentrate. Would also like to welcome Mr. Sandeep Kumar, Secretary, Cooperative, Government of Gujarat. So please join us on stage along with our panel members. And ladies and gentlemen, to give you a brief on these two amazing new products from Amul, may I welcome Sri Jayan Mehta, MD, GCMM of Amul, to join us on stage and talk about these amazing products. May I request Varsha Joshi ma'am also to kindly join us on stage.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you ma'am, thank you Varsha ma'am. You know, we've been looking after our health, our nutrition, and Amul also is trying to unleash the power of protein with a wide range of products. We all been discussing, we are all a protein deficient nation, and how we can help bridge this gap through the dairy products. We all need 1 gram of protein per kg of body weight every day. And to do that, Amul has launched a range of products. The high protein lassi and buttermilk got an award at the IDF last year. And then we expanded the range with high protein paneer, high protein dahi, high protein blueberry shake, whey protein concentrate, which is plain and lactose free. And today we are happy to announce exclusive launch of 2 new products: chocolate whey protein, 25 gram protein, 5 gram BCCA, lactose free single serve sachet, and the world's #1 first highest protein milk, 35 gram protein in just 250 ml. And may I request Secretary ma'am, Alka ma'am, Varsha Joshi ma'am, Sandeep ji, Minesh ji to please launch these new products.
Wow, so we have wonderful products from Amul. It's indeed something amazing, 35 gram protein and 250 ml. And such an amazing price range as well. So we have high protein milk from Amul. It's wonderful.
It's all available on shop.amul.com. And for all those who've been here today, there is a 50% discount. Please note this code, AMUL50 at IDF. Anything you buy or any protein product on shop.amul today till midnight gets a 50% discount. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, ma'am, and thank you all gentlemen for being here today for this lunch.
So amazing product, an amazing price range, and of course an amazing discount today. Wow, wonderful. So thank you very much, all our speakers, panel members, and all our dignitaries, and our wonderful audience, of course, for your active participation. Now we invite everyone to join us for a delightful traditional Kerala Sadhya lunch, elegantly served on a banana leaf, promising an exquisite and authentic culinary experience. So please join us on Liva Hall and VIPs at GBR Hall. So enjoy your meal, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session tomorrow. So after that delicious Kerala Sadhya lunch, we have a very, very exciting Kerala snake boat race as well. So we have some exciting things lined up all for you. Next is traditional Kerala Sadhya lunch, and after that outside we have something very, very special and exciting, a snake boat race, which is a very important part of Kerala tradition. So we invite all of you for Kerala Sadhya, followed by that exciting snake boat race. Thank you.